The purpose of these lessons is to show you the logic behind the most basic Chinese characters, beginning with the simplest pictograms, and later combining these elements to create more complex characters. Today's lesson introduces 8 characters, all but 3 of which contain the pictogram for air, the air we breathe. The earliest pictogram of air is composed of 3 horizontal lines representing the cloud layer, nearly identical to the pictogram for the number 3. To differentiate the two, the upper and lower lines of the air were curved, giving us a close approximation of the modern radical. Remember that a radical is not used alone, but in combination, so the water element was added to indicate that the cloud layer was made up of water that had evaporated. Pronounced 4th tone, qi, qi. This character means vapor or steam, and appears alongside 车 for an automobile, literally a steam vehicle. Since most people today drive automobiles, the full expression 汽车 is rarely heard. 车 or 车子 is the common term for a car. Perhaps more useful is the phrase for soda water, soft drinks, and carbonated beverages. 汽水, as in this expression. 有没有汽水? Do you have soft drinks? Are there any soft drinks? To create our second character, we need the phonetic in the form of a sheep, goat, or ram. So we'll introduce that element here. It's a drawing of a ram's head with curved horns and a triangular-shaped snout. Pronounced 2nd tone, yang, yang. With this character, we can create 3 expressions. 山羊, mountain goat, or simply goat. 小羊, young sheep, or simply lamb. And 羊肉, goat meat, or mutton. Our third character combines the air radical with the goat phonetic. Pronounced 3rd tone, yang, yang. This character represents the chemical oxygen, literally nourishing air. The character for nourish will appear in a future lesson, but it's also based on this goat or ram phonetic. Oxygen has a very specific meaning, so our examples are limited for the moment to just 1. 有氧, aerobic, referring to physical exercise or to bacteria that require oxygen to thrive. The 4th character in today's lesson is one of the components of another one, so I have to explain it first. It's a simple pictogram of uncooked grains of rice. Pronounced 3rd tone, mi, mi. Mi gives us 3 common words or phrases, 2 of which refer to grains. The first is 小米, meaning millet, a cereal grass with tiny grains that are commonly boiled and eaten in northern China in the form of a thick porridge. The second grain is 玉米, literally jade rice, the Mandarin word for corn or maize. The third expression is an abbreviation for meter, which you will often find on signs warning of height limits for vehicles posted on overhead highway bridges or underground parking lots. American English abbreviates public signage too, such as spelling through as THRU and highway as HWY. The Chinese, of course, do use the metric system and have their own translations, but the rice character is short and convenient for use on public signage. Mi, for meter, belongs in this category. Our 5th character contains mi as part of the meaning. It combines the air radical with rice and another component meaning food, but this food element was eliminated when repurposing this character with a new meaning. This character is also pronounced fourth tone, qi, qi. As the purple lines indicate, it's a phono-semantic compound. According to etymologists, the original meaning of the full combination is to distribute rice to the needy for food. Just as air rises, dissipating and dispersing in all directions, the air component is intended to convey the idea of distributing or dispensing rice to all those in need of food. Hence, the air plus rice combination. I've mentioned before that the phonetic elements in Chinese characters are usually intended to convey meaning also. When the food element was eliminated, this character became the usual one to mean air in general, with all the myriad connotations that encompasses. It can refer to the weather, gas, breath, spirit, odors, manner or attitude, such as a person who gives themselves airs. And of course, the vital force, qi, that anyone who's ever taken Tai Chi lessons or had acupuncture will instantly recognize. Let's begin with the more transparent meanings, such as the full expression for oxygen, yang qi, followed by the weather. 天气不好，下大雨. The weather's awful. It's pouring down rain. If you've exhausted your energy, you could possibly use this sentence. 我拖不动了，我没力气了. I can't budge it. I'm exhausted. To talk about a well-known or renowned individual, there is this sentence. 他是有名气的思想家. He's a renowned thinker. If you want to say a person looks to be the scholarly type, you could describe them this way. 书生气十足, bookish in the extreme. 书生 is one expression for a scholar, so 书生气 means a scholarly air. To say a person is tight with their money or stingy, Chinese uses the expression 小气. 你好小气. You're so cheap, you're so stingy. And if a person looks dejected with too much on their mind, you could approach them and 打气, boost their morale, cheer them up, just as one inflates a tire by pumping air inside. 他心事重重, 需要打打气. She looks depressed and in need of cheering up. For the grammatical term mood, indicative mood, imperative mood, or one's manner of speaking, the correct translation is 语气. Probably the most commonly heard expression is 生气, meaning angry. Pressure, literally, builds up inside. In a more traditional Chinese medical or artistic sense, it can also refer to the signs of vitality expressed in a patient, or in a painting or other work of art. 我生他的气. I'm angry at him. Literally, the pressure inside me has gone up, and it's his fault. 他的. 他是有意的想气我一下. He's deliberately trying to get under my skin. The sixth character in today's lesson is based on the original pictograph of dispensing rice to the homeless and needy. Only now, both the food and the rice elements have been deleted, along with one horizontal stroke of the air radical. It's pronounced third tone, qi, qi. This character is used for the opposite meaning, the receiver of the rice, the one who benefits from the generosity of others, and means to beg, to ask for alms. It's often found in conjunction with the next character, today's seventh. As a side note, English also has words that can mean one thing and its exact opposite in different contexts. Compare the English word sanction. To give sanction to something is to approve of it. To apply sanctions is to punish a foreign country. So it's not surprising that Chinese does the same with both the distributor and the receiver of food. Anyway, our next idiom is composed of ru from lesson 12, an L-shaped enclosure, and a person hunched over it. The combination is pronounced fourth tone, gai, gai. How to interpret it? Well, entering an enclosure is an important character to be discussed in detail in a future lesson. But, for the moment, we need to know that it indicates a person vanishing into a hiding place, escaping, exiled from society, who must then depend on the kindness of strangers to survive. A beggar. Together, 乞丐 means a beggar. Our eighth and final character takes the original radical and adds a mouth underneath, which later moves to the left. The ideogram attempts to show speech breaking apart, like the clouds breaking apart and dissipating in the sky. In other words, it means to have broken speech, to stutter. Pronounced second tone, ji, ji. Due to its simplicity, this broken speech character was borrowed to replace two more complicated ones before it, representing the verb to eat, which is the usual meaning of this character today, pronounced first tone, 吃, 吃. This makes it a split sound character. Our first example is the less common pronunciation, 急, meaning to stutter. 他的心一急，马上口急. Once he gets anxious, he immediately stutters. Notice how the two homonyms, ji and ji, are differentiated by combining them with other characters. 心急, anxious and impatient in your heart, and 口急, to stutter with your mouth. This explains why classical Chinese is much more succinct. The characters can be seen, whereas spoken Chinese is filled with repetition and multiple character expressions. Now let's continue with the more useful pronunciation, 吃, meaning to eat. 羊肉好吃吗? Does mutton taste good? 你想不想吃东西? Do you feel like eating anything? Chinese hosts will always encourage their dinner guests to eat until full, or even beyond that point. They will often add second or third helpings of food to your plate as a courtesy, saying, 多吃,多吃, to which you may reply, 我吃不下了. I can't eat another bite. Literally, I can't eat it down. Of course, adding 谢谢 for thank you would also be appropriate here, although the characters haven't appeared in these lessons yet. And if you see something that looks delicious, but you know that it doesn't taste nearly as good as it looks, you could use this phrase, 重看不重吃. It looks better than it tastes. This phrase is similarly more often applied to Japanese food because of the stunning presentation of very common food items. 中, by the way, means to hit a target. So in this context, the literal translation would be, it hits the target as far as appearance goes, but not the taste buds. 我看她的书，看得好吃力。Reading her book was hard for me. 吃力 means reading the book literally ate away at my energy. It was exhausting. And lastly, here is a possible sense development for today's characters, from dissipating clouds to taking in food. Here is our color chart with today's 8 characters. 气, 吃, yang, yang. 气, 起, 盖, and 米. Here's a recap of today's lesson. 1. The pictogram for air represents the clouds that float up into the sky and dissipate in every direction. 2. To clarify that the rising air was the result of evaporating water, the water radical was added to create the character for vapor, or steam, creating the basis for the expression for automobile, 汽车, which runs on petroleum vapor, and soda water, 汽水, which appears to give off bubbles and steam. 3. The character for oxygen is composed of the air radical plus the goat or ram phonetic, the latter being an abbreviated version of the character for nourish, because oxygen is the air that sustains and nourishes us. 4. The pictogram for qi, with all its various modern connotations of air, did not originally refer to air, but rather to the dispersing, dissipating quality of the cloud layer, which, when paired with rice and the radical for food, meant the distribution of rice to the hungry. 5. The pictogram of air, minus the food element, is a character borrowed solely for its sound, which kept the rice component to distinguish it from similar characters. 6. The character for air, qi, has diversified it in meaning to include everything from the weather, 天气, physical strength, 力气, reputation, 名气, stinginess, 小气, manner of speaking, 语气, to possibly the most useful expression of all, become angry, 生气. 7. That original character meaning to distribute rice to the hungry later lost the rice component altogether, to become the opposite meaning, the hungry receiving a handout of rice, which then became qi, to beg. 8. The pictogram for a beggar, gai, depicts a person escaping into a hiding place, possibly an exile who must depend on food from strangers to survive. Together, qi gai is the normal term for a beggar. 9. By adding a mouth to the air radical, the original intent was to describe the fragmented nature of a person's speech, koji, just as clouds rise and disperse in the sky. This is the expression for stuttering. 10. Stuttering may seem too specific for common use, but this character has also been repurposed as a simplification of previous characters meaning to eat, 吃. As a way to remember it, you could think of it as the mouth of a beggar asking for food to eat. 11. 吃 is not limited to the usual definition of to eat. It may have originated as a person taking in food, 吃东西, but has expanded in meaning to include the effort taken to accomplish a task, 吃力. Now you will find a short quiz on double, triple character, and longer expressions. Answer using only the characters learned so far. Thank you for watching and listening.